My name's Dave DeBow, founder of MoneyPartnerFormula.com, and this show is built for everyday real estate investors who are actively doing deals and looking to scale using other people's money. So if you're an active real estate investor and you want to get featured on this show to talk about your own real estate and capital raising experiences, then just go to daveinterviewsyou.com. Now let's get rolling with this episode, and remember to subscribe for daily interview content. Hey folks, welcome back. If you're a Canadian, you've probably heard about a lot of Canadians investing south of the border. It seems to be harder and harder these days to find good deals that make sense in Canada, especially if you're looking at single family homes or small multis to get them to cash flow. Well, today's special guest is Brandon Jimenez, and he is zooming in from beautiful Burlington, Ontario. And Brandon has experience in both. He invests in Canada, and he and his wife also invest in the States, specifically in short-term rentals. So Brandon, welcome to the show. Good to have you here.
Yeah, thanks, Dave. Glad to be here.
So Brandon, give us a little snapshot of what the portfolio currently looks like mid-2025. Let's start with what you got in Canada, what kind of properties, how many, where they are, and then let's take a look at what you're doing in the States.
Great question. So we've got properties all across Canada. So we are literally coast to coast. We did start here on Ontario, right? It's our backyard. It felt comfortable. It was easy to get started here, especially when the prices were what they were when we first bought our first condo in 2015, and then recycled that money over and over. So since then we've been converting properties. We've been flipping properties all across Canada. We do have some Airbnbs here as well, including my own personal property. We continue to believe in house hacking. And on top of that, we have Airbnb arbitrage that we're doing in the United States. Specifically, we're focusing on states like Florida and Texas and Arizona, Phoenix.
Okay, cool. Yeah. All right. So lots to unpack there, Brandon. Yeah. So let's take a look at the Canadian side of things. You got properties across the country. Some buy and hold, some short-term rental type stuff, like a long-term rental, short-term rental.
Yeah.
I think you were mentioning some flips as well. So the question would be kind of what is your buy box in Canada? What are you looking for? And how are you juggling all these properties across multiple different provinces?
Yeah, great question. So there's two things that we look at when we are evaluating the property. One is your overall return on your investment. So that can be difficult to calculate, but we use our trusted calculator. We put all the information in there, and we take it with a grain of salt. My wife is very conservative. She's an accountant, CPA, and she runs all the numbers for us. And so for her, the threshold is very important. And so we look at cash on cash ROI, which is the cash that you're putting in and the cash that you're getting back, and the overall ROI of the investment. So those are the two things that we are absolutely looking for. When it comes to things that we don't want, especially in Ontario, we don't buy things with tenants in them. We want vacancy, right? And I think a lot of people are seeing that. And that also is reflected in the prices of the properties that you're buying. There's huge discounts for properties where they can't get those tenants out because they know that they won't cash flow, and it's harder to find an investor that's going to want to buy that property. So our buy box really comes down to percentages on cash ROI, the overall ROI. And then the property itself, it has to meet certain requirements. And one of the big things is really vacancy. And then we also look at what are the exit strategies, right? Yeah. So if we are going to be flipping it, but the market's taking a dip or we're not seeing the offers that we want, well, can we sustain that property? Can we hold it for a year until we feel like the market has rebounded or not? So there's lots of components that we look at it, but make sure you have your exit strategies, and then when it comes to the offers, I mean, we're just looking for any opportunities out there. So for us, the more we put the word out there, the more we're attracting it and being a magnet for those types of properties and opportunities.
Okay, so the Canadian portfolio, I think you mentioned you got 30 units in Canada at the moment. Yep. Is that correct?
30 plus. Yeah, 30 plus. Yeah.
30 plus units. Okay. Single family homes, multifamily properties, like what do they look like, and where are they located?
Yeah. So the majority of our portfolio is here in Ontario. It is where we started. It's our backyard. It was very comfortable. I think any investor that's really getting started and doesn't know too much about investing in real estate, the easiest thing is to look in their backyard. So in 2015 is when we bought the first condo. And that was in Mississauga, if you're familiar with the Ontario area. And then from there, we kind of put in a rule that we weren't going to buy any more condos. It all went to multifamily or single family conversion projects, whatever the case may be. But they are all small. They are smaller multifamilies, 4 or 5 units, things like that. Probably one of the most successful we've had is I'd say here in Ontario, Port Colborne, and also our renovation in Edmonton. We bought two side by side semi-detached for under 200K, and we were able to turn that into a fourplex and really bring up the price in there. Yeah.
No, that makes a lot of sense. So in Ontario, lots of challenges with tenants and landlord tenancy board and
Yeah.
all that kind of fun stuff. So how do you guys kind of deal with that? Like you want to get a property that's vacant, but then if you're holding on to it, you're getting a tenant in there and you've
Yeah.
kind of got the same challenges. So
Yeah,
what are
absolutely.
your thoughts around that?
Yeah, great question. So when it comes to, I mean, one thing I'll tell you right now is the reason why Carol's not here today is because she's actually talking to the LTV. It's she is in her hearing right now. Everything seems to be going our way,
Well,
and
but she sounds like a very detailed, focused person. So
oh,
she's probably got
she is.
everything
And
documented.
that's exactly what I was going to say is the documentation. It's your process, right? Are
Yeah.
you running this like a business, or is it just more laissez-faire and you're collecting rent when you can and then not collecting it if it doesn't come in, right? And so as soon as somebody is not paying their rent, especially here in Ontario, where the rules are a little bit more flexible and convenient for the tenants, we need to be able to issue the paperwork right away. And
Yeah. So
so
you're giving them they don't pay the rent. Next day they're getting an eviction notice,
they're getting it
basically.
right away. And that does mean
Yeah.
in Ontario that they're getting evicted. It just means that
Okay.
we're starting to build that case towards them so that when we
Yeah.
do, if it does continue and we do get to the landlord tenant board, now we've got all our documentation in place. We've got all our ledgers, we've got all the Excel spreadsheets that my wife has been taking care of. And that's what's helping us win the case right now is that we are completely organized. We have all the information and everything that the LTB needs to see. Now, to mitigate some of that risk, now, if we are going towards a flip, now you said, especially in Ontario, like how, we're kind of getting into in a messy situation if we're going to put a tenant in there. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, if it's a flip, it's simple.
yeah,
Like you're not
yeah,
driving into it. But
exactly. Yeah. So if it's a flip, obviously you need to know what your runway is, how long you can keep that on the market before you're eating into your profit or losing some cash there, right? So you got to know what your projections are. Now, a way to mitigate that for us easily has been turning those into more short-term rentals. And the reason for that is because we can put it on the market at any point in time.
yeah.
And another thing that I really love about platforms like Airbnb and VRBO that has it as well is that they have insurance coverage. And
Mm.
so we just had somebody that broke the glass on my stove, and that stove it's a stove top on the countertop, and that one particularly is about $4,000. We got
Wow.
all $4,000 back. Now, I don't
Nice.
necessarily need to replace that stovetop. It's just
Yeah.
cracked. So I can either recognize that revenue today and spend it later if I need to on the oven, or I can keep that revenue and put it towards other things. And so for us, the short-term rental is that nice pivot where we just get some furniture in there, we start renting it out, and then when it's ready to put back on the market, it's already staged in a sense. And if there's any
But
damages
that would
done,
be very location dependent because I don't know about Ontario, but BC,
yeah,
they've shut down or severely limited the
yes,
opportunity to do short-term rentals in many communities. Has
yeah.
that affected you guys?
So there are bylaws here
Yeah.
that if you're comfortable enough to kind of
Band
bypass
them?
and yeah, I
Okay.
mean, I mean
I got it. I
we
hear you.
yeah we've been operating for quite some time, and I won't say where it
Yeah,
is,
yeah.
but
Fair enough.
it'd be places where you wouldn't think people would want to vacation. But when I look at short-term rentals, it's not necessarily vacation. A lot of the people that are coming here are coming here to visit family, stay
Yeah.
close to hospitals. They're traveling nurses, they're business executives coming in to town for about a
So some
month
of
or
these are kind
two.
of like midterm rentals then, not even short-term
Yeah, I mean
rentals.
they can be. They
Yeah.
can be the traveling nurses, they'll stay for 2 weeks. Somebody's
Mhm.
here for their son's graduation. They're going to stay here for 2 weeks as well. So
Right.
I'd say it is more short-term rentals. And so
But not like nightly 2 or 3 night stay.
no, I mean we do have those,
Yeah.
but that's not the person that we're trying to attract by any
Got it.
means.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean it's not something that we're going to with those properties. We know we're not going to be pursuing the short-term rental for the next 5 years. It's just until the market stabilizes and we
It's
can
a
get that back
stopgap.
on the market.
Got it.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, that makes a
So
lot of
we're
sense.
willing to take that risk. The most that we've seen a city give a ticket for, and that's just because you don't have a license, they don't necessarily shut you down right away, is about $1,000,
Okay,
which
worth the risk
you
then
could
for
eat
sure.
that. Yeah.
Okay, so you're doing flips, you're doing long-term buy and holds, you're doing short-term rentals across Canada. When did you guys venture down south, and what made you
Yeah.
take that decision?
Good question. So we ventured down south in June
Oh, this
2024.
is new.
So
Okay.
it's fairly new. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So we've got about a year's proof of concept down there.
Yeah.
And really what drove us there was the opportunity to earn in USD.
Mhm.
Like that was a big factor. You know, we saw the way the
So,
economy.
so just to let a lot of our American audience know,
Yeah.
there's a huge difference between the value of the Canadian dollar, the value of the American dollar, pretty much all the time.
All the
It's
time.
it's especially exasperated these days.
Yeah.
So Canadians earning in US dollars is a big bonus. So go
Yeah,
ahead,
yeah,
Brad.
and you never know where life is going to take you, right?
Yeah.
And so we were like, let's open up the corporation there. Let's keep the money in the U.S. Let's do what we need to do to have a backup of some sorts, right? And
Right.
I love Canada. I don't see us leaving by any means. It's just being prepared. That's really
Yeah.
what it comes down to, and diversification. And so, we saw lots of opportunity for short-term rentals in the United States, especially with all the vast areas that they have for vacation rentals. When you look at Canada, it gets to be very limited where
Yeah.
where people want to go. They
Well,
want warm
plus we got
weather.
1/10 the population of the
Yeah,
states, right? As
yeah,
well. I mean,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you look at the population in California as compared to Canada, it's right
bigger,
there,
I think.
right there alone. Exactly. So we're like, let's hit that big market, and that's exactly what we did. So we did our research, we did our due diligence, and we very much liken it to investing remotely in Canada. Right,
Mhm.
you're doing the same process. You're building out a team there. You're interviewing people. You're making sure that you have trusted people on your team, and then you're executing. So I've
So
never
what
been
what
to.
is your big picture? What's the strategy
Yeah,
in this in the states? What are you guys doing?
yeah. The big strategy is to have vacation arbitrage rentals across the United
So
States.
maybe explain what that means for folks that aren't familiar.
That yeah, great. So that means that instead of us putting a lot of money for a down payment to own the property, what we're doing is we're reaching out to landlords and owners and just saying, hey, is there a potential for us to rent out your property and be very transparent? This is what we do.
Mhm.
We rent it out as a short term, and these are the guarantees that we have, and these are the benefits that you'll have as the landlord there. So that's the type of
As the owner,
conversation as the owner.
you
Yeah,
guys are the
yeah,
landlord.
we'd be the tenants at that point. So that's the type of conversation we have. It's really opening up the doors, people that have their properties up for rental, and seeing if they're willing to rent it to us so that we can leverage that as a business. And the good thing is that with that is they know that we make money, so their rent is pretty much guaranteed. They know that they're going to be getting paid. If not,
Yeah. So
we're out of
yeah,
there.
it's an arbitrage situation. So basically, you're trying to find areas where there's demand for short-term rentals,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're matching that up with long-term landlords who aren't particularly interested in short-term rentals. They'd rather
Yep.
rent it out to a monthly tenant.
Yeah.
And you're leasing it with the right to sublet it as a short-term rental. And then you go
Correct.
out, you furnish it, you stage it, you promote it, you advertise it. The owner gets the benefit of that check automatically getting deposited every single month.
Yep.
And you guys rent it out as a short term, and whatever the difference is between what you collect and pay out is your profit.
Correct. And
Yeah.
and the beauty there is that instead of spending $150,000 on a down payment, now you're spending $10,000 to furnish the place, and you pay
Mhm.
first and last. A lot of the deals that we're finding too, part of the negotiation is trying to negotiate anywhere from 1 to 3 months of free rent,
Mm.
so that you can get the business up and running, so that you can get it furnished, you can get the pictures done, so that by the time they say yes, it's yours, it's rented, you don't have to pay for the next 3 months. And if you do start making money, you're going to be taking that all into your pocket or paying it back to the furniture that you bought. So if you
Well,
can pay
yeah,
back your
but
furniture,
again, yeah, you do have upfront expenses like you got the first month's rent, the last month's rent,
precisely. Yeah.
furnishing, all that kind of stuff,
Yeah.
and you're probably signing off on a multi-year lease to encourage the owner to do something like that, or is it like a 1-year lease? What are you typically doing?
Yeah. So for us, we typically like multi-year leases because
Yeah,
we don't want to start making money and then get kicked out either, right?
exactly.
We
Yeah.
want to be able to be there, make up the money, and typically that first year of operating is you paying yourself back.
Yeah.
And then
Uh,
after the second and third year is really where you start making a lot more. It's all relevant to where you are, the type of accommodation you have. But if you have like what we have in the ones I'm thinking of in Phoenix, there are three townhomes right beside each other. So that's a
okay.
very standard type of home, right? It's very executive kind of like. There's no backyard. There's nothing luxurious about it, but it is in demand. And so those are the types of opportunities that we're looking at, as well as, how many, is there a new building going up, and can we stack maybe like 5 units in that one building so that our cleaner only has to stay in one building at a time,
Smart.
and we're
Yeah.
only operating it in one building at a time. So it's not like we want to be everywhere. We want to be very strategic, penetrate one state, one building, and then move on to the next one.
Yeah. One city, one building kind of
Yeah.
thing, and have
Yeah.
multiple. That's really smart, Brandon, for sure. So you're kind of early days into this, coming up on a year. How many
Yes.
of these arbitrage properties do you have on the go in the States at the moment?
So we got 5 right now,
Nice.
and I mean, the whole goal is to keep growing that, really.
Yeah.
I want it to be at 10 by the end of the year. So that's I mean, we're right on track with where we need to be. But it also still needs to make sense.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
At the end of the day, it needs to make sense. And so what we're seeing in Canada are what I believe are really great opportunities right now. And
Really?
so,
Cool.
yeah. I mean, and it fluctuates definitely
Mhm.
depending on where you are. But cities outside of Toronto proper, I'd say like Burlington, Oakville, Mississauga. If you look on this side, on the
Yep.
on the west side of the city, those prices are holding up pretty well. Obviously, the ones that are like $4 million, less affordable for people. But if
Yep.
you're flipping within that million to 1.2, 1.5 range, there's still definitely a demand for those types of homes here. So we've actually, as of this week, switched our focus back to looking for in Ontario, and yeah, we're looking for our next flip, and we've got an offer going in tomorrow. So just
Nice.
looking at the calendar, yeah.
Well, I appreciate how flexible you and your wife are, Brandon. Like you're dodging and weaving and all that kind of stuff, depending on what's going on with the market, figuring out what makes sense, and you're not tied to any one particular market. You're figuring out
Mm,
what works where and what to do there. So I'm sure some of the folks that are watching this or listening to this would like to connect with you. What's the
yeah.
best way for them to do that?
Great. You can do that on Instagram. Follow us at Smart Money Fam, and send us a DM. We'll reply there.
Awesome, Brandon. Thanks very much for being on the show.
Thanks, Dave.
All right, everybody, take care. We will see you on the next one. Hey there, I really hope you enjoyed that episode. And as always, if you want to listen to more daily interview content, make sure you subscribe. And if you're an active real estate investor and you're doing deals and you'd like to get featured on this show, then just head over to daveinterviewsyou.com.